understanding trauma, hypervigilance, and their relationship to chronic pain and sensitivity in your clients coming up next. Hey, FreeBody family, Kat Matlock here in Asheville, North Carolina at the FreeBody Clinic. And I taught my first round of Module 1 of a trauma-informed somatic bodywork training. So bodyworkers, massage therapists came in, and we spent 2 days exploring and understanding trauma and how that can show up in your clients. And I felt like this is really information that every massage therapist really needs to know, because a lot of the reasons why people come to see us are a result of high levels of stress and trauma. So today I want to break down, what does that word mean, trauma? What is hypervigilance? Because you're going to hear that word. And then also how that shows up and how you can help your clients kind of down-regulate or bring down the stress response and that activation in their nervous system so that they can relax better and get out of pain. Let's define trauma first. Trauma is not an event itself. It's actually the nervous system's reaction and maybe chronic reaction to an event. Two different people can experience the same event and have two very different reactions and sort of chronic reactions where someone could actually get over the event. Maybe there's a terrible car accident, people die, it's a mess, it's shocking, it's scary. That's a traumatic event. Two people in the same vehicle both live. One might freak out, they're both going to freak out when it's happening, but then one might actually have resilience and then move out of the event and still be sensitive for a little while, but actually be okay. Another person, it may take them a very long time to recover, or they might actually get stuck in the stress response around that event and struggle to relax and find peace again. Trauma is the reactivity of the nervous system, not the event itself. Because you see, the brain's number one job is to keep the human alive. Our brains are kind of always looking for danger, looking to keep us alive, making sure that we're safe and we're okay. When a traumatic event happens, that's overwhelming to the nervous system. The nervous system's like, we are not okay. This is not safe. And there's a bunch of activities, biological reactions that happen in the nervous system that is a part of that stress response, right? It triggers a stress response. Protect the human, save the human is what the brain goes into. That's called a stress response. Understanding that the brain's number one job is to keep the human safe and alive. It's always looking for safety. Really, our job as therapists is to cultivate a place, a space, cultivate a sense of safety within our clients to help them do so in themselves, and also to create an environment where they feel safe and so that they can actually relax. The brain's number one job is to find safety or look for danger, really, but to keep the human alive. Our job as therapists is to help our clients cultivate a sense of safety so they can relax. Because what happens often when people have chronic stress, intense stressful situations, or a really traumatic event, they can get stuck in something that's called hypervigilance. Hypervigilance is, I'm paying attention, I'm looking, right? Hypervigilance is a chronic state of looking for danger, like really looking all the time. So some of your clients come in and get on your table and they're stuck in a place of hypervigilance. There's scary stuff going on right now. The world feels unsafe right now. So more and more of your clients might be coming in really rigid and stiff. So I want to explain to you what hypervigilance kind of looks like and feels like, And then things that you can do, simple things that you can do to help your clients kind of step down out of that vigilance, out of that chronic stress response, so that they can find more ease, release tension, and maybe get out of pain. So hypervigilance is kind of a heightened state of awareness in the nervous system, and it keeps the nervous system constantly scanning the environment, looking for danger. This shows up in your clients as really shallow breathing, because that's a classic biological reaction to a stress response is, oh no, oh no, what am I gonna do? I'm in danger. Oh, I gotta pay the bills. Oh, right? It's not just physical danger, it's like mental and emotional danger or fear or worry. So when that happens, the breath comes up high and it's kind of short and choppy. That's a signal that your client is stuck in hypervigilance. A really sensitive startle response, if your clients startle very quickly, sometimes just you sitting down in the chair behind them and going to touch them, they might jerk or be startled. They might be startled by a sound outside your office. They might be just kind of startled, trigger happy, right? That activated, elevated startle response is a classic symptom that the person is stuck in hypervigilance. Physical tension, of course. Fists, tightness in the whole body, in muscles, and we're going to talk more about trauma in this series. So I'll help you understand which muscles particularly contract, but there's muscular tension that happens. And then there's fascial or connective tissue that happens, the tension that happens, where the fascia gets kind of stiff and rigid. So I'm here in Asheville, North Carolina, 6 months ago from the date of recording this video. We had a major natural disaster in the form of Hurricane Helene and the flooding that wiped out millions of trees, thousands of homes, thousands of lives here, right here in my sweet, beloved community. For months afterwards, and still some to this day, people coming and getting on my table, they're like this, right? They're kind of rigid, they're kind of stuck, their tissue feels not resilient, feels sticky, right? Feels kind of like, it's kind of like massaging a board or concrete. That can be a signal that the person is stuck in hypervigilance. And of course, after a natural disaster, after a traumatic event, that is going to happen. That's normal for a period of time. But after a period of a few months, the person needs to be able to regulate out of that stress response, or that's going to lead to a lot of issues. Jaw tension, jaw clenching, right? Another signal of hypervigilance is sensitivity to light, to sounds, to anything in sensation, right? Because when we're looking for danger, when we need to make sure we're safe, the dial gets turned up on all of our sense organs. The eyes dilate, the eyes are kind of looking for danger. So light can become difficult and troubling to a person stuck in hypervigilance. Touch can be too much. You know, your clients, you might just go to not be using very much pressure at all. And they're like, oh, that's wow, that's so tender, right? Because everything's so rigid, the sense organs are really the dials turned up, so they can't take much pressure at all. Sound, the music might be irritating to them, or it might sound so loud, like elevated sensory sensitivity, sound, touch, lights, that is a sign that your client is in hypervigilance. Difficulty breathing, difficulty relaxing, right? How many of your clients get on the table and they're in that kind of elevated breathing, that short, shallow breathing, and they can't relax, they can't let go, right? They might also tell you, I don't sleep well at night, I have anxiety, I have nightmares, I can't rest, right? Sleep is a very vulnerable position for a human to be in, because we go literally unconscious. So if we're sleeping and we don't believe that we're safe, even if we are, if we don't believe that we're safe, we're gonna keep waking up. Sense organs turn up, sounds become more amplified. So we might just startle at the smallest little thing. And if you're a parent and you have young children, you're kind of always, the first bit of time with a child, you're kind of always in a little bit of a state of hypervigilance because you want to make sure that that baby is safe. So the tiniest cry, the tiniest sound, wind outside might startle you awake because there's a part of you that's wanting to make sure that that child is safe. People can get stuck into that level of hypervigilance when there's no baby or no child. They're just feeling too vulnerable by going to sleep, so they can't sleep. All of these things are things that you'll experience, of course, with your clients. They're going to feel stiff, they're going to feel tight, you're going to see shallow breathing, they're going to be sensitive, they don't like the music or the music's too loud. Lights, that's one of the reasons why we dim lights, is to just kind of soften and smooth out the area. You're going to see them be rigid, maybe startle quickly if you go from one part of the body to the next a little too quickly, or you're working on the right side and then you suddenly shift to the left. That can startle someone, so don't do that. And they might share with you how they're struggling. And all of these things, the stress response always activates inflammation in the body, which always increases pain. Inflammation in the body, the brain goes, oh, I need to pay attention to that area. There's some healing going on here. So I'm going to turn up the dial of the sensitivity of the nerves around that area where there's inflammation. Hypervigilance can create a chronic systemic inflammation or inflammatory response that gets stuck, which is why high levels of stress can lead to chronic inflammatory diseases like heart disease and diabetes. So how do we help our clients who are experiencing this chronic muscle tension, this fascial tightness and tension, that kind of rigidity in the body, that loss of sleep and increased pain sensitivity, which always goes along with it, and exhaustion and burnout? How do we help them to deal with that in our sessions? I'm so glad you asked. We can teach our clients how to regulate their nervous systems by teaching them belly breathing. That's a great way. Or humming, or there's a practice from Peter Levine, the founder of Somatic Experiencing, where he teaches students and clients to voo, voo, because that activates the belly, which communicates with the vagus nerve. We're going to talk more about the vagus nerve later. But it helps to regulate the nervous system out of a stress response. Some of your clients will have a hard time focusing on their breath or shifting their breath down to their bellies. So if they're having a hard time doing that belly or diaphragmatic breathing, which has been proven to immediately reduce tension and even reduce sensitivity and perception of pain, because it regulates the nervous system out of a stress response. Some people have a hard time when they focus on their breathing. It makes them a little more anxious. So you can offer them the VOO practice. And I do this with my clients right on the table. I'll just hold their head or hold their feet or holding a steady pressure somewhere, and we'll VOO together. So why don't you and I do this together right now? Take a nice breath in. Try to get it in the belly if you can, and then voo. And just see how long you can go, extending that voo until the breath and the sound run out. What that does is, it's magic, right? Long, slow exhale relative to the inhale immediately sends a message to the brain, you're safe. Because you're not doing that when you're running away from a tiger or trying to get out of the way of an oncoming car. You're not like, right? That's not happening. You're like, oh no, and the breath gets really fast. So purposefully and mindfully using this tool to extend the length of the exhale immediately shifts the brain down from a stress response and helps your client or you to relax and soften. Another way that we as therapists can support our clients is not moving quickly. Slow your roll when you're massaging your clients. You don't have to do a lot of things. You don't have to use every tool in your toolbox. And this came up a lot in this training that I did this past weekend, where at the end, several people said their key takeaway was do less. Like, you don't have to do everything, right? You don't have to do everything you know, and it doesn't have to be quick. Like the slow, steady, same stroke over and over and over again, the brain's like, okay, it's predictable. I know what's gonna happen. So you don't wanna be going quickly and then moving to something else, and then moving to something else, and then moving to something else. Long, slow, steady, same thing over and over and over again. I had them do a stroke down the erector muscles on the back, and then up the sides, and then down the back on either side of the spine, and then up the sides. And I had them do it 30 times. When's the last time you did the same thing 30 times? And every 10th time or so, I'd ask the clients on the table, the therapists who were being clients at the time, are you sick of that yet? And every time they were like, no. And then 10 more times, and I go, are you sick of it yet? And they're like, no. Never once did they say yes. You as a therapist get bored much faster than your client does. They love the long, slow, steady because it's predictable. The brain doesn't have to wonder or worry what's going to happen next. And it's not like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? It can just sink into that rhythm of your long, slow, steady pressure and glide. One of the best things that I like to do is to just really welcome my clients when they first walk in the door. We are hardwired to need to feel welcome because that part of our brain was created in like Neanderthal times, like many hundreds of thousands of years ago. And at that time, if you were exiled from your community, it was certain death. You were dead because you couldn't survive alone back in sort of more Neanderthal times where people traveled in small groups because it was helpful to keep each other safe. So FOMO is real. Fear of missing out is real, and fear of not feeling welcome is real. It's literally hardwired in our brains to need to feel welcome. So as soon as your client walks in the door, go, welcome, hi, whatever you're doing, pause. Even if you're changing the sheets or you're doing something, walk out and say, hey, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I saw you were on my schedule today. I'm so glad you're here. Have a seat, take a couple breaths. I'll be with you in just a moment. Every one of my students, when they walk into a training, I greet them and I say, hey, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Because that immediately starts to soften the nervous system out of that stress response. It doesn't matter what kind of day I'm having. I'm here in service to my clients. You are in service of your clients. And the very first thing that you can do when they come in the door is to help them to feel welcome. So I'm going to do a bunch of these videos about trauma and high levels of stress because really, as body workers, we are on the front lines of stress and trauma. And right now, there's a lot of things that people are really worried about. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now and in the United States right now. So there's a lot more of this kind of hypervigilance and stress activation that we're seeing more consistently, especially here in Asheville. So I know that this will help you. I really trust that it will help you with your clients to help them to feel better and for you to feel more confident about the work that you're doing. So key takeaways: trauma is not an event. It's the reaction of the nervous system, or maybe chronic reaction of the nervous system. When it's a chronic reaction of the nervous system, that's called hypervigilance. The brain's number one job is to keep the human alive. So it begins always kind of getting stuck and looking for danger, looking for safety, really. So that means our number one job is to cultivate a soft sense of safety in the nervous system of our client, to meet them where they are and hold them in a space of kindness and compassion and welcome to help their nervous system to soften and relax. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what amazing tools you have in your toolbox. It doesn't matter how adept you are at trigger point work, how adept you are at myofascial release, how adept you are at whatever kind of specialty that you have studied. If your client doesn't feel safe, and if you don't know how to help them to cultivate that sense of safety when they're in your presence, you will not be successful in helping them to feel well and to get out of pain and take their lives back. So, thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate you so much. Drop a comment, let me know a key takeaway for you, something that you learned that maybe is different, and also what else you would like to know about stress and trauma and how we as body workers on the front line of stress and trauma can support our clients. And also, I'm toying with the idea of setting this up as an online training where we would do it live stream. So let me know if you're interested in that, and I'll see about getting that going. So thank you so much. Kat Matlock here at FreeBody in Asheville. Have a great day.